Jochen Peiper was evil, infamous, perfect villain for our story. He's not going to be the topic of a bio discussion here. That's been done in many other places on YouTube. But he makes the perfect villain for our story. And he matches up with our hero in the story. And the hero's name, he has a good call sign. It's Motz, Major John W. Motzenbecker. And I love stories about unsung heroes, people that make a difference in a moment in history. And this guy stopped Peiper, and he stopped him with a P-47 fighter airplane. And I love the P-47. When I was a kid, I played with P-51 Mustangs. I had a model of it, a remote control airplane of it. Loved it. But as I became older and studied World War II, I realized that the P-47 was extremely effective in what it did. And we're going to tell a story of the Hellhawks. The Hellhawks were Motz's fighter group. They're well known by that time. And at the moment of our topic, Motz was 100 nautical miles or 100 miles away from Peiper at Sivert Airfield in Belgium. Typical airfield. We'll talk about what was going on with Peiper, but Motz was grounded. His whole fighter group was grounded. They had been grounded for days. The weather was terrible, and Hitler planned the Ardennes offensive. He called it Watch on the Rhine to deceive the Allies, but he planned this offensive to be in bad weather. That was his air cover. That is what kept Motz and his P-47 fellow pilots grounded. So they were sitting there. And I'm sure the first thing that you do, and we still did that today, is you talk to the weather officer. And I'm sure the weather officer said, "You're not going anywhere today." And they were sad about it. Well, let's get back to Peiper. Peiper was angry, very likely angry, because what he was seeing as he sat in his command Panther tank at 5 o'clock in the morning on the border of Belgium and Germany, ready to attack, he saw a column of soldiers passing him. And these were soldiers in name only. They were Volksgrenadier, People's Army. And by 1944, that meant young boys and old men. And whatever power that be, and the German headquarters decided they were going to put that division, the 12th Volksgrenadier Division, in front of Peiper. And he was likely very angry about that because he wanted to be in the forefront, and he knew from his time, his brutal fighting in Russia, that you need to put the armor up front and you don't need to wait for infantry. But in this case, he had to wait for infantry. So just like Motz couldn't fly on 16 December, Peiper he went to the front, he went to the forward areas, he tried to unjam the traffic back up. He couldn't do it. In the end, his Kampf group, which was the most powerful fighting force that Peiper had ever commanded in Russia, he was in command of a battalion. This was more of a division light. His column stretched for almost 15 miles. When he practiced for this attack, he actually drove a Panther tank about 5 days before the attack, 50 miles at night, because he knew that his objective was going to be Hue on the Meuse River, and it was 50 miles. And he drove that in one night. Now, granted, that was him by himself in a Panther tank, but he knew it could be done. And that's the kind of leader he was. He did it in person. No matter how evil he was, he practiced what he taught, and he led from the front. There were several cases in the Battle of Bulge where he grabbed a Panzerfaust and he worked his way forward to try to clear American defenders out of the way for his attack to continue. So we set the stage for Motz and Peiper to meet. And Motz was airborne on the 17th of December. He went to the weather officer probably, and the weather officer said, "You're good to take off, but you're probably not going to make it back." So Motz took off. probably with a 4 ship, maybe a little more, maybe 6. And he was flying over the clouds looking for a hole, looking for a hole. And finally, he found that hole. And he dove into it at much risk because the cloud layer was very low over the hills. And all they're not mountains in Belgium, but they're rolling hills in this area of the Ardennes. And so when he dropped underneath the clouds, it was very dangerous. He could have just as easily hit a hill. But instead, you got to image this. He was face to face with Peiper. According to reports, when Motz's P-47 came out of the clouds, he was dead center over Peiper's half track. And Peiper was behind 2 Panther tanks leading up to the village of Chenot. And there's been great YouTube videos about this that I will point to in the description below that you should look at. So I'm going to visualize this as much as possible, but they're going up this slight slope. And when the P-47, when Motz came out, he opened up with all 8 of his 50 cals. And Peiper's column scattered. Peiper jumped out of the half track and he ran to the bunker that you see in my video here. And he hit. So why this moment is so important is because it delayed Peiper. And Motz's fellow P-47 pilots proceeded to pummel his column for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So it was about 2:30 in the afternoon when Peiper finally got moving again through Chenot. And his lead tank, a Panther, he was right behind it, rounded the corner, and they could see one last bridge. And unfortunately for Peiper, there were engineers at that bridge. And Peiper is well known to have said, those damn engineers. Well, they stopped him. This was the last bridge that he could possibly take and meet his objectives. So that P-47 flown by Motz stopped Peiper on 17 December 1944 and changed history. William C.C. Cavanaugh, a wonderful man, the best Battle of Bulge historian and tour guide you could meet. Wonderful person. Will, we all miss you.